So this is going to be another movie review. This one's called The Package, 1989 U.S. political action film, thriller film directed by Andrew Davis, who did Under Siege and Above the Law, The Fugitive. This is going to be another Karate Man recommendation. Starring Gene Hackman, Joanna Cassidy, Tommy Lee Jones, John Hurt, and Dennis Franz. Set during the Cold War, the film depicts the U.S. and Soviet governments as they're about to sign a disarmament treaty to completely eliminate nuclear weapons. Yeah, that's real likely to happen. However, elements within each country's military are vehemently opposed to such a plan and determined to stop it at all costs. Yeah, a bunch of skinheads, about 50 of them, are able to conspire with the Russian government to hire Tommy Lee Jones as a sniper to take out Gorbachev. U.S. president looks nothing like Ronald Reagan or George Bush Sr. One murderer soon changes the world. One man can stop it. One murder soon changes the world. One man can stop it. That's what the movie poster says. Pretty lame looking movie poster, if you ask me. But then again, Andrew Davis is a lame director because he's completely lamestream. Hold on, let me check on my taco before I dive into the plot, or the so-called plot, I should say. Sniper should have taken him out. All right. U.S. Army Green Beret Master Sergeant Johnny Gallagher is part of a unit patrolling outside a chalet in West Berlin, where the U.S. President and the Soviet General Secretary are beginning talks for mutual nuclear disarmament, the complete elimination of nuclear weapons. Another part of the chalet, high-ranking generals from the U.S. and Soviet militaries secretly agreed to sabotage the talks. When U.S. General Carlson refuses to go along with the plot, he is assassinated outside the chalet by killers posing as German hikers who slipped through the chalet's perimeter. Boy, I'm glad Wikipedia explained it to me, because I had no idea what was happening at the beginning of this movie. Now I know. Gallagher is blamed for the disaster and assigned as punishment to escort an army sergeant named Walter Hankey back to the United States for court-martial. After landing at Dulles International Airport, Gallagher is ambushed by an undercover team who spirit Hankey away. Gallagher tracks down Hankey's wife, and Gallagher is surprised when she shows a photo of a different man as her husband. Gallagher realizes the man he brought into the country is an imposter. After he leaves, the same undercover team kills Mrs. Hankey, and it phones in an anonymous tip identifying Gallagher as the killer, who is then detained. Again, I'm glad they have this plot here to describe the so-called plot, because I have no idea what's going on up to this point while I'm watching it. I don't know if it's the dialogue or the editing or what's going on here, but I couldn't follow along. Maybe I just wasn't interested in this espionage flick. Meanwhile, the real Walter Henke is approached in Germany by Colonel Glenn Whitaker, who tasks him with the top secret assignment to infiltrate a neo-Nazi gang in his hometown of Chicago, who they believe are plotting to assassinate the president. All right, distributed by Orion Pictures, release date August 25th, 1989, running time 108 minutes, too long. Country, United States, language, English. Budget, $16 million, and box office, $10.6 million. This was a financial flop, to say the least. All right, sorry about that. I think I'm done cooking my tacos. With the help of his ex-wife, Lieutenant Eileen Gallagher, and her assistant, Lieutenant Ruth Butler, played by Pam Grier. I forgot to put Pam Grier's name in here. Pam Grier has about a 5-minute cameo. Pam Grier. How do you spell Pam Grier? Just like it's pronounced. Grier. All right. Pam Grier is in the description now. That I remember she had a 5-minute cameo. She looks good in a military outfit, Miss Pam Grier. We like Pam Grier on this channel. All right. Gallagher identifies the man he brought back from Germany as Thomas Boyette, a long-service Army veteran with a history of covert operations. The trio deduces that impersonating a prisoner allowed Boyette to enter the country without a passport, meaning there is no record of his entry and no way to track his movements. Again, I'm learning everything from Wikipedia. None of this stuff I was smart enough to pick up by watching the movie. When the same undercover team kills Butler and attacks Eileen, Johnny rescues her and escapes the base with the help of a friend. The Gallaghers investigate this conspiracy on their own, starting with trying to find the real Walter Henke in Chicago, where the next phase of the planned peace talks will take place. Is this a ripoff on the Manchurian Candidate? Because I was starting to get some Manchurian Candidate vibes from this movie. Johnny approaches his military friend, Chicago police detective Milan Delic, played by Dennis Franz. Who allows the Gallaghers to hide at his house at a diner. The same undercover team attempts to kill Delic, leaving him wounded in the ensuing shootout, and the team is killed. As Delic is taken away by ambulance, conspirators dressed as cops capture Johnny, who is then held in the basement of a safe house where Boyette is staying. After Boyette leaves for his assignment, Gallagher escapes and he grabs the MP by the leg, starts banging his head on a pole, and then somehow he grabs for the key. I don't know how the key just happened to be right in front of him, the key for the handcuffs. Anyway, Gallagher escapes and speeds towards downtown Chicago, using Boyette's surveillance photos from basement as a guide to the planned assassination site, Meanwhile, the real Walter Henke is lured into an office building overlooking the site, and the real Walter Henke is killed by Boyette, the intention being to frame Henke for the assassination and to make it look like he was killed later. Oh, we got some JFK conspiracy theory mixed in here. This is the only good part of the movie, really. Right here. Following a hotel luncheon, the Soviet press secretary, one of the conspirators, convinces the general secretary to make an unplanned stop just outside the hotel's garage for a photo op with emigre Russian families. Before the U.S. Secret Service can secure this site, Boyette takes aim at the general secretary with a sniper rifle, but Gallagher bursts into the room and shoots Boyette dead. Good timing. This Gallagher, Gene Hackman character. All right. Outside the room where he found Boyette, Gallagher confronts Whitaker and accuses him of trying to start a war for no reason. Angrily, Whitaker says that the nuclear weapons are the only thing preventing war. Sort of like how the death penalty prevents murder. And he and his Soviet counterparts are just smart enough to realize that mutual disarmament would be disastrous for both countries. Oh. So now we have a little bit of fail-safe. This guy is starting to sound like the Walter Matthau character from Failsafe. More Cold War nonsense. We all know that the Soviets didn't want to bomb the United States. In fact, we were giving foreign aid to the Soviet Union in the 1970s. So what Cold War are they referring to? The United States is more communist than USSR probably at this time. So more Cold War nonsense, more propaganda. Gallagher promises to expose the conspiracy and he storms away, ignoring Whitaker's threats. Whitaker says, "You're dead, man." Gene Hackman. On the street, Gallagher reunites with Eileen and he hugs her gratefully. Oh, they're reunited. They're reconciling. Isn't that nice? After his confrontation with Gallagher, Whitaker enters a limousine with his Soviet counterpart who asks him what their next step is. All right. I guess I should put John Hurd Jr. in the description. I forgot to put his name. So we got Tommy Lee Jones, then John Hurd Jr. All right. Although the story takes place in Germany, Washington, D.C., Arlington, Virginia, and ends with numerous Chicago settings, the closing credits revealed the film was shot entirely in Chicago and the other Illinois locations, with the exception of the opening credit scene filmed at the Soviet War Memorial in Tiergarten, Berlin, Germany. The package holds a 68% rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 19 reviews. Roger Ebert awarded the film 3 stars out of 4, calling it smarter than most thrillers. I guess it was too smart for me. It went way over my head. I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on throughout most of the movie. And quite frankly, I didn't care. In the US and Canada, the package grossed $10.6 million at the box office, a net loss against a budget of $16 million. All right. How come IMDb doesn't have a link on Wikipedia here? I have to go back and click on the Google query result. Is that what they're telling me to do? Okay. The package, 1989, rated R, 1 hour, 48 minutes. It's got a lot of cursing and blasphemy on it. Other than that, it's pretty tame. All right. Gets a pretty decent 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb. Lamestream, 12,000 ratings. More like this. The Russia House, No Way Out. Narrow Margin and Company Business. Another Gene Hackman flick. Company Business. Although the story is set in various places around the world, nearly all of the film, including scenes set in Washington and Germany, were filmed in the area of director Andrew Davis's hometown of Chicago, Illinois. The majority of the U.S. military personnel have hairstyles that would never be considered acceptable by any uniformed branch of the armed forces. Lieutenant Milan Delic putting his sleeping child down on the couch. I've got to stop feeding that kid. That's one of his quotes. Featured in Siskel and Ebert, Casualties of War, Rude Awakening, Uncle Buck, The Abyss, and A Chorus of Disapproval from 1989. Soundtrack, Soul of the Land, performed and written by William Olvis, published by William Olvis Music. All right. Here's a positive review. This person gives it a 7 out of 10, which is way higher than my rating. I'm only giving it 4. New England Pat, dated August 13th, 2005. The title of the IMDb review is Gene Hackman Makes a Good Thriller Even Better. Gene Hackman's great in this good political thriller that has plenty of action, twists, and surprises as he races against time to thwart an assassination attempt. The target of the hit is a Russian premier who's scheduled to visit Chicago and sign the disarmament treaty with the president that would end the threat of nuclear war. Very improbable that 2 world leaders would ever agree to eliminate nuclear weapons entirely. The movie takes off when Hackman's prisoner escapes from a Washington airport, sets in motion the events that lead to the picture's tense payoff. Hackman and Tommy Lee Jones have great chemistry between them during their brief screen time. And most of the film is about Hackman and Joanna Cassidy hunting for Jones while staying out of harm's way as unknown killers hunt them down. Dennis Franz and Thalmus Rasulullah are good and supporting roles as the chase scenes intensify against the backdrop of Chicago's skyscrapers and downtown areas. It reminded me of the French Connection with the Chicago train there. The package. So there you go, my first review of the weekend. The architect is taking measurements here to come up with a scope of work for the building violations in this house. So things are progressing. I think I'll get a settlement soon. Not not by Christmas time, but probably early next year. The next three movies coming down the pike are Raw Deal, 1986, Frankenstein, 1931, and The Great Gabbo, 1929. Those are my next three. I'm going to try to get two more in today, maybe possibly 5 on Monday. We'll see how that goes. Depending on how long it takes me to update my list. All right, so that's the end of my review. Laters.